Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniela, and if you're new here, I make upcycling videos and also some basic tutorials for sewing and some DIYs. In this video, we will be seeing how did I make this dress by upcycling this old kurta that I had, and it's going to be a very easy tutorial. There won't be any pattern drafting. So without any further delay, let's get into the video. Okay, first things first, we separated the front and the back part, and now we need our front and the back bodice pattern. So make sure you have the bodice blocks ready. We will start with the front block. Come down 1 inch from the upper bust line and mark a point. I also marked a point on 1 inch on the shoulder line, and now join these 2 points together with a curve. I want my shoulder slope to look like this. That's why I am making it this way. Do the same thing for the back block as well. Come down by 1 inch on the upper bust line and also mark 1 point on the shoulder line at 1 inch and then join those 2 points together. Once this is done, we are going to use these blocks to trace it on our fabric. Now I'll take my front fabric and then I will fold it into half. Okay, like this. And on this I am going to keep my front pattern block and then I am going to trace it. If you see on the neckline, it is exactly matching with my neckline, but I need to keep some seam allowance because I need to stitch it and do the finishing of it. So I will come down a little and then I'm going to trace it. You can see I am not tracing it with the seam allowance. So while cutting, I have to add the seam allowance when I'm cutting on the fabric. Now once this is done, since our bodice block is only half, we still need to mark the bottom part. So I'm just going to draw a straight sloped line like this and also mark the hip point, okay, because we need it. Now you know our hips are always curved, so I'm going to mark the midpoint from waist to hip and then come half inch outwards and then draw a curve. So this is going to be a hip curve and just extend that curve. So now I will be considering this new line which I have drawn, which is darker. Now the next thing is the dart marking. You can use your blocks to mark the darts, or you can also use the markings as you know where the darts start and end. I used my bodice block and I'm just going to create the darts now. Just mark the darts. Once the dart markings are done, just go ahead and cut the pieces. So our front pattern is ready. Now my back fabric already has a zip, so I don't have to. I will fold the fabric and then I'm going to use my front to do the tracing. The only thing that is going to be is the dart start point. So I'm just going to keep the front fabric on the back and I'm going to do the tracing and then cut the pieces. Once this is done, we will start with the stitching of the front fabric. Okay. What you have to do is, I have the lining fabric. I'm going to keep the lining fabric and main fabric with right sides facing each other and then do the finishing of the neckline. Okay, so I will make sure you pin the pieces so it will be easier for you to do the stitching. Once you have done the stitching, it will look something like this, and then go ahead and add some notches. Okay. Notches will help you to turn it on the right side and get a smooth neckline like this. Okay, so once this is done, my back neckline already has finishing, so I will not be doing anything here. For the front, I did the finishing by mistakenly on the shoulder line as well, so I will just go ahead and remove it. In case you have done it, don't do it, only do the neckline. Okay, and now we will attach the shoulders together. You can see how I have kept the front and the back pattern, and then I will open the lining fabric and the main fabric and keep the main fabric with main fabric and lining fabric with lining fabric like this, and then pin it so that it will be easier for you to stitch, and then go ahead and do a straight stitch there. It's always good to pin the pieces and then turn them on the right side to see how they will look like. So I did that, it is looking fine. So I'm just going to do the pinning and I will go ahead and stitch it. Once you have done it, it will look something like this. So the shoulders are attached. Now we have to stitch the sides. You can go ahead and stitch everything together, the front, back and the lining, everything together, but I am not going to do that. I will first do the stitching of the main fabric. Okay, so keeping the right sides facing each other, I will just go ahead and stitch it. Once you have done it, it will look something like this. We still need to stitch the lining fabric. So to do that, just see how am I doing it. I need to make sure that the seam allowance after stitching of the lining fabric should face the seam allowance of the main fabric. So just see how I did it. It's always good to do the pinning here, because since you have pinned it, you can just turn it on the right sides and then it will be easier for you. So I've pinned it now, and now I will just turn it on the right side. Okay, and after that it will be easier for me to just go ahead and stitch the lining pieces. Once that is done, we need to do the dart stitching. I will create a separate video for that. But for now, I am going to stitch the main fabric and the lining fabric in one dart. And to make it easier, I will first pin the midpoint of the main fabric and of the lining fabric on the dart. And then I will lift this pin, okay, like this. Then I'll go ahead and do the pinning of the dart. Make sure that the pin is touching the lines on both the sides of the dart, like this. Okay, so go ahead and do the pinning for the whole dart, also the other side dart and the back darts. And once you have done it, go ahead and stitch it. Now after that, I tried the dress and you can see here there is a little extra fabric here. So I will also create a dart here like this. So you can just wear it and see how it fits, and accordingly you can add the dart. And then I will just pin it. Okay, do it on the other side as well. You need to mark where your dart will end. Okay, so it will be easier for you while stitching the dart. So go ahead and mark the point and then do the stitching. Now let's move on to the bottom curve. Okay, so what I have done is I have marked a point at 5 inch from the bottom. You can wear your dress and see where you want your curve to start, and then I'm just going to create a curve towards the end. Do the same on the other side as well. You can make your curve look the way you want it to look like. So I'm going to do it like this, and once you have done it, go ahead and cut it. Cut it only on the front fabric, not on the back fabric. Now we will go ahead and attach the frills. I have added the link of the video how to create frills on the top of this video, so just make sure you watch it. You have to attach your frills like this, okay, on the right sides. Just see how I have done it, and then go ahead and do it for the whole bottom part. Once you have pinned the whole frill, it will look something like this. Turn it on the right sides to see if it is looking fine, and it is looking fine. So just go ahead and take it to the sewing machine and stitch it. Next, we will finish up the armhole using the bias tape. You can buy a bias tape from the shop or you can create it yourself. You will find the link of the video in the description box. Also, it will pop up on the top of this video. So for attaching a bias tape, you just have to sandwich the armhole curve into the bias fold. Like this. It is a very easy method to do the finishing. Just go ahead and pin it. Then take it to the sewing machine and stitch it. Once you have stitched it, it will look like this. For the finishing of the frill, I have just used a lighter and I have burned the edges. And our dress is ready.